go.
Thank you, everyone. It's online for joining us today. I'm Jamie Logan. I'm the director here at Tech Place. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Tech Place, it is a 95,000 square foot facility at Brunswick Landing, which is the site of the former Brunswick Naval Air Station. And it was originally the intermediate maintenance facility for the P-3 Orion aircraft. We have hangar 4 attached to us over to our west, and the planes would come in. We have a series of workshops and office spaces. So this is where the work was done on the P3. And when the base closed in 2011 and the Midcoast Regional Redevelopment Authority took over, the mission is to implement the master redevelopment plan that was formed when the base was announced that they were closing. So MIRA was formed by the state as a quasi-municipal organization to transfer all the land that we were given from government use into private use. And so that's what we're doing. When they realized we had a lot of people interested in a lot of the spaces, the land, developers buying in, some people directly building. We have buildings for sale. They've all been sold. So we're just selling land right now. But we didn't have anything that was small sized, appropriately sized for smaller businesses that are either starting up or in early stages. So the original executive director of MIRA, Steve Levesque, had a light bulb moment. And I think it may have had something to do with a cocktail because the plan was written on the napkin to convert this facility into an incubator for early stage and startup businesses. And so in 2015, the facility opened. I think we had 17 tenants within the first 6 months. And one of them is here participating in the program today. Daniel Greisen Aerospace was one of our first.
Since Bed moved out.
Yes. Harbor Digital was our first tenant, and they actually just graduated a month ago over to Hangar 6 on the landing. So we have office space. We have shared office space with a business suite. So you get your own desk. You don't just have a chair. You have your own desk. And we have individual different sizes of industrial spaces. We have a shared industrial space, which is our Crane Bay area, which is for shop, which is for project work. We also have a shared machine shop, wood shop, and welding room, which is our TechWorks facility. And we also have a biolab and a composite center, including a spray booth. So right now we have about 36 businesses here under the roof. Some have office space, some have industrial, some have both. We have conference room facilities, including this classroom, 3 other conference rooms that have full AV capacity. We have resource, we have shipping and receiving, we have office area with a photocopier and scanner, coffee net, break room, foosball, ping pong, you name it, we've got it. So it's a real community here. People here on a first name basis, everybody knows each other, they help each other, they hire each other, they work together. So it's a really good place to network and for early stage businesses to work together. So one of the things we do is host programs, so sometimes present them ourselves. And we're delighted to have Midcoast Council of Governments and our other resource partners here today to do a program on funding opportunities. Thank you all for coming. I'll turn it over to Matt. Where to go? Thank you, Corey.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. So glad this is being recorded. Corey King, I am the Executive Director of the Bath Brunswick Thompson Regional Chamber, and my goal here is to keep us moving and keep us going. So we've got 6 presentations here. We're all gonna have 5 to 6 minutes. I'm gonna kind of do a wild flailing with my arm that people on off screen will not see, but you certainly will. And that means to kind of bring it in for a landing so we can get to our next person. Does that sound good, presenters? Let's see, nodding heads, great. Jen Dobransky for the Maine Small Business Development Center. Please come to the front of the room. Your 5 minutes begins now.
Just walk forward.
Yes, thank you.
Want me to pull up anything on the screen or?
Oh, I didn't know that was an option. I could just say it. So my name is Jen Dobransky and I'm a business advisor with the Maine Small Business Development Center. We are an organization that is funded through, the federal SBA, and we get some, DECD, the Department of Economic and Community Development state funding. We don't do any loans, so looking at the agenda today, we don't handle any, do any loans, have any access to funds, but we work with people, entrepreneurs that need money, oftentimes need money. So our role, we're statewide, there's about 13 advisors that are across the state, in communities. And we offer primarily one-on-one, free confidential business advising. So that is the primary way in which we work with people. We also do some educational programming, webinars, in-person workshops, that type of thing. But primarily we work with folks one-on-one who need business advising. So that is what I do 99.9% of the time. And we're business generalists, so we can, whatever question you have, we can oftentimes answer that question, or we point you to resources to help you with the questions that you have. But we often, in this context, help people get ready for the loan process. So business planning, financial planning, projections, that type of thing. Those are the ways in which we work with people. You just need to go to our website, request to have some free business advising, and you will be matched with a business advisor in your community. So that's primarily how we work. What else can I tell you?
Well, from the one-on-one perspective, if someone is starting a business and just doesn't know, so what is the website for starters that they can go to?
MaineSPDC.org.
MaineSPDC.org.
Yep.
And then what are the three most common things when people are coming into you that you're like, oh, you need to work on X, Y, and Z? Or is it all different depending on the scenario?
Yeah, it really depends on the client. So we have people who are in ideation phase and they want to talk through some ideas. We can do that. We have folks that are writing business plans. We can give feedback on business plans. We have people who are ready to purchase a business, and we can prepare them for that process. It really is a wide variety of, like I said, we're generalists, so we know we have to kind of know the whole gamut of business startup and development and growth, and succession planning. We do that as well. So it's a kind of a wide variety of kind of things that we can help people with. So not three in particular.
No, that's okay. Are there any specific industries? I'm gonna go over here because I think it's better for the video. Are there any particular industries that
Nope.
you work more or better with?
Nope.
Work with new Mainers as
Yes.
well as
Yep.
established folks and that
Yep.
sort of thing?
Absolutely. Any adult that requests advising through our website can become a client of the SBDC.
Perfect. And I'm assuming you redirect them to lenders and
Yes.
to other
Yep.
people in the networks of for
Yeah.
what they're needing.
Whatever resource they need, if we can't help either answer the question or they have a resource that's outside of our skill set. For example, they want a loan, then we help get them prepared for that process. But we don't give loans like some other resource partners do.
But that one-on-one connection of meeting them where they are
Yes.
is really
Yes.
incredible resources. I don't know if it's not HIPAA, but can you talk about any organizations that you've worked with that have had success from startup? Is that something you can say, hey, we've worked with such and such and they're really successful now? Or is that something that's kind of?
Yeah, all of our services are confidential, so we can't specifically say who we worked with. But you can, we have an annual report that profiles, and we have success stories on our website. So you can see once somebody releases confidentiality, they can go on our annual report, they can go on our marketing materials. That is very prolific on our website. So you can check out our website and see success stories, our numbers, impact numbers. It's all there. So
I love it. We're gonna have a general Q&A afterwards.
okay.
So let's get into the next person and
Sounds
then
good.
we'll go to that.
Thank
Hey, if
you.
anybody on Zoom can just give a thumbs up so we know that you can hear us and that we're good.
I just tried earlier, could be good.
Just making sure, somebody give me a thumbs up. And there we go, thank you, BCDI for that. Next coming up, we have Emma Enoch. Yes, okay, good. Emma Enoch from CEI Coastal Enterprises.
Thank you.
I'm gonna reach for you. I know that before.
Hi, everybody. Happy to be here. I'll also plug our website because it's gonna say things way better than I'm gonna say it. So you can visit ceimaine.org for more information. But CEI Coastal Enterprises Incorporated has been around town. We're here in Brunswick on Federal Street. We've been around for about 50 years. We're a community development financial institution. What that means is a, fancy term for an economic development organization, funded under the Treasury. And we also have a bunch of other funding sources that help us, offer three primary modes for developing economic opportunity in the state of Maine. We do small business lending. We also provide business technical assistance one-on-one. And then we have a policy team that is trying to advocate for bills and laws and an environment in Maine that works for small businesses. So I'm a lender at CEI, so I can most notably talk about our loan programs. We fund almost any small business or nonprofit, sole proprietor in the state of Maine, whether you're startup or transitioning or expanding or selling, we'll really work with anybody. And we have folks on staff who have specific sector expertise. So CEI focuses on childcare, we focus on food systems, agriculture, aquaculture and sea farming, and then climate solutions. So we have folks in-house who we can work with and refer folks to for further development of a business plan or grant opportunities within those sectors. But we do also work with anybody who has a small business. Question.
Is there anywhere a document, because you guys do loans, they do loans, banks do loans, some banks do SBA, like 7-something loans, they
7A,
do
yep,
500-something loans.
504, yeah.
Yes, is there any one document that compares, here's what all the options are?
I think this video may be an iteration of that document eventually. I think that may be the goal of this, is to sort of bring folks together to share what we offer. We'll hear from Matt soon at FAME, and they also offer loans and other things, and we work with them often. We're a part of a capital stack with MCOG. So it's really, I don't think there's one resource where you can find everybody. But there are ways that, we're all plugged into each other. We refer folks to each other all the time because we're familiar with each other's programs. So in that way, I think it's emerging. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're still within your 5 minutes, so that's, we're cool to take questions. There was, Max is gonna pull up a question that was on the chat that you didn't see because it happened behind your head.
Okay.
Do you have technical assistance for people looking to start nonprofits as well as businesses, or they just provide business technical assistance?
Yeah, we do also provide technical assistance for nonprofits. Yep,
So CEI does perfect, okay,
we do.
great.
Yeah.
So catchment area, so you are based out of Brunswick, but you serve.
Yeah, we have satellite offices across the state of Maine. And then depending on what program, what door you come in at CEI, we do offer some out-of-state financing as well, but our bread and butter is small business in the state of Maine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If somebody wanted to find out where is the nearest one to them, they would log on to
CEImaine.org.
CEImaine.org, all spelled out.
Yeah.
Yes. And yeah, I love the question about, is there one document to rule them all? Below stuff, and I think that is exactly what today is. It's about learning, putting a face to who does what and how it can help, because I have businesses all the time that come in and ask for that. You cover the industries that you work with primarily. I will ask you the same question. Are there 2 or 3 things that you find most common that business owners should really think about as they're starting their businesses and coming to you with ideas?
Every single business
is its own thing. It has their very unique needs. I wouldn't say there's a blanket top three. I think that having a business plan developed that feels true to you, that you can speak to, maybe not generated from AI without your voice in it, I think would be my biggest source of advice right now, because that really is your business's resume. So having a really solid business plan and make it reflective of why you want to do this and where you're going, I think is the biggest piece of advice I could give. Yeah.
I love that. It's the AI point is very, very interesting and probably something for another time, but
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that. No, I mean, we can talk about it now, but I don't know if I can stop myself. Anything else that we didn't ask about that you want to tell us about CEI and what you do?
I'll just plug one more thing. I know I'm a little bit over time, but
You're still within it.
great. We offer within our technical assistance bucket, we offer workforce development, which I think is maybe one of our most underrated programs at CEI. So we work with businesses, we have workforce development officers, and they'll work with anybody once or every other week or twice a year. However, it's really driven by a business. But if you're wanting to take on your first employee, you can chat with them about legally what you need to offer or write a job description, or if you want to offer more benefits or health insurance, walking through all of those things with a subject matter expert that stays plugged in on workforce environment in Maine. We do offer that, and that's a free confidential tool at
I
CEI.
love that. So that is for growing your staff and bringing on employees, or is it for like upskilling current employees? Both, okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
And we also know some, grants that you may be able to draw from to offer benefits or do technical training or offer workshops.
Wonderful. Any other questions for enough, or going to the Q&A? Anything that's burning anyone up? All right, hearing no one?
Thank you.
No, thank you. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, next up is the best name in the room. It is Joe Power from Maine Venture Fund. Joe, come on down, and let's give him a round and get a worker. There.
All right, actually, it's plural, Joe Powers.
Oh, Joe Powers.
I don't know if that's more or less powerful, but, no, that's okay.
It's more power.
Yeah, so Joe Powers, Managing Director of Maine Venture Fund, and Maine Venture Fund, if you think about the sort of four types of capital or financial support, sometimes people describe them as bootstrapping, grants, debt, and equity. We're an equity provider. So the state of Maine created Maine Venture Fund as a pool of money that entrepreneurs who have businesses based in Maine could go to for equity, should that be the best fit for them. And I think there's a lot of probably confusion around what equity is, and the simplest way to think about it is you are essentially selling a portion of your business in return for capital. And then you've got a partner who's sort of riding shotgun with you in your business, really hands-on, maybe even more so than a lender would be, to help you get through the various milestones to get to the other side of the rainbow, which in this case is selling the business to either an investor who's going to take it to the next level, or an acquirer who's going to, incorporate it into their company and do something else with it. And that is a key component of equity that, the question around, what do you want people to know, or what are the top sort of pieces of advice you would have? I think that is, if you're looking for equity, you need to be sort of on a, roughly speaking, 5 to 7 year path towards that event where you're selling your company. And a lot of people that just feels, totally at odds with why they started the company in the first place. They may want to, grow it for decades and hand it down to their kids, which is all great. But that usually means that you're probably not a good fit for equity, because the way the equity investor gets their capital back is the value of the company grows over time. Their slice of the pie grows accordingly. And then in that event, everyone gets paid back, the employees, the founders, and also those equity investors. And without that sort of acquisition, those early investors don't have a path to getting their money back, or what's called liquidity. So, again, we think the world of, every kind of business in Maine, but if you're a Main Street business, or, you're a profitable company today and you own 100% of the business and you're not interested in sharing ownership, which means sharing in the decision-making and the key decisions of the company's growth, then what I tend to do is divert people elsewhere to CEI and to Fame and to others. And by the way, that's another piece of advice I would have is if you knock on our door and you're curious about what equity is, and you're not sure whether it's a fit for you, that's totally fine. And I think you'll find that if anyone listening to this, if you haven't already knocked on doors of the folks you're hearing from, Maine is a very open place in that respect, and we're all, for the most part, very happy to take the time to just give you that general education. And so, Jen talked about SBDC being a place that can, mentor folks and guide them through the various challenges in their business. I mean, we sort of play that unofficial role as well. And that's something that's unique to venture funds that are not state sponsored generally are not doing that. So anyway, I'll just say there's no wrong door to walk into, and we all try to make sure you get sort of reoriented to where you need to go. And Matt will talk about, at Fame, we'll talk about the Maine funding network, I'm sure. Just a few more sort of layers on Maine Venture Fund. So we were created in the late 90s sort of in parallel with Maine Technology Institute. And I don't know if MTI is here today, but MTI is probably like the least common denominator among all startups in Maine. You tend to bump into them in a good way. They have grant funding and loans and lots of technical assistance support. But that's a place that most entrepreneurs, when they're just starting out, will start there. And then once the company sort of gets up and running and maybe has some revenues coming in the door and they can see a line of sight to real growth, that's usually when they come to us, or when they start looking for equity in general. We are usually investing in what's called a pre-seed or seed stage, which is to say, companies raising 500 to a couple $1 million. So now we're in the sort of realm of significant capital.
No, that's you're bringing in for landing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So obviously I could go on, but I guess I'll say we typically write $100,000 checks. We require companies have boards, and we're looking for companies again with that revenue. So
that would be my one question, just for right now. We'll have a Q&A session later. But are there specific industries that you're more in tune with at this time? I mean, I'm sure it changes over time, but
yeah, we're pretty industry agnostic. Maine Technology Institute has the 7 technology sectors.
Yeah.
We do not have that in our statute. So open to anyone who's trying to grow their business aggressively.
well, I'm sure we'll have other questions for you later. Thank you so much, Joe. I used to work out of the MTI building when I was here on Brunswick Landing, so yes, I miss those guys a lot. Next up, also a very good name, Matt Lindquist from Fame. Matt, come on down.
All right. All right, thanks. So yes, as said, Matt Lindquist, I'm with the Finance Authority of Maine, which is known probably more commonly as Fame. So we're also a quasi-state agency, and what that means to us is the governor appoints our CEO and our board of directors. So the rest of the employees are private employees, but we have a couple different sides of the house. So we have an education side, which is the college savings, 529 plans. And we have a business side. So I'll talk mostly about the business side. And so we exist to take a greater risk for public benefit. So with that being said, we have a couple different ways that we do that. And our biggest way is through commercial loan insurance. So that means that XYZ Bank and pretty much every bank that's in the state of Maine deals with Fame in one way, shape, or form. And that would be our customer in that instance. So XYZ company goes to a bank, asks for a loan, and the bank is okay with doing a loan for you, but they might need some added insurance for that loan. So what that means is that they'll go to the SBA or FAME. So FAME's really the state version of the SBA in helping mitigate some risk for banks. So that's our biggest way that we make an impact within the state. But with that being said, we have some direct loans. And those direct loans are really for businesses that don't qualify for traditional bank financing. We're not a competitor to a local bank. So we want to make sure that if you can get traditional bank financing, then that's really plan A. So plan B would be FAME's direct loans, and we have several different programs that work in a lot of similar ways, but can be very specific to different industries. So our general FAME loan is called the FAME direct loan. And that's what I guess we'd call the Swiss Army knife of our loan. We'll do it for all businesses with an 8% interest rate. We're always going to have a 5-year term on our loans. That's statute driven. So we do those from everything from a restaurant, a convenience store, all the way to some high-tech businesses, to hotels. So what we see a lot of is businesses that can find one form of traditional financing that could be, let's say, for the real estate where a bank is able to provide some debt. And FAME could be a sub-debt lender. So let's say a bank can do the real estate and they come on but the banks are like, this is as much as we can do. That in instances, FAME can do, let's call it working capital or something else, maybe equipment financing. So we would work in conjunction with senior debt.
So, Matt, I don't know exactly what the voice is, but something came through in the chat, so I'm gonna try to read it
Yeah.
as Christina. Do you require bank denial before working with clients?
No, we don't require the actual denial, but we do ask that you go and at least explore the traditional financing. And it's really for your own good. I mean, our interest rate is typically going to be higher than a bank. And a lot of lines, like we don't do lines of credit, so a bank can do lines of credit. So you really just want to explore the traditional financing, and then if that doesn't work, then FAME can be an option. So to kind of speak on a few of our kind of niche programs, we have some programs that are specific to the ag industry. We have particular program that would be, if someone wants to put up a barn, an extra barn on their facility or on their farm, they can get a lower interest loan through FAME is administering the loan, but it's actually funds from the Department of Agriculture. And similar to that, we have a program with DEP. As you see a lot of the convenience stores, if you're probably don't notice, but those tanks under the ground have a shelf life. And so they're required to come out typically over 30 years. So it's an expensive process to replace those tanks. And DEP has a program that will give you a low interest rate loan to replace those tanks. So that's another program that we administer. Trying to think, we have, I guess one of the underlying things that I would like to convey is that FAME has a lot of different programs and a lot of kind of niche programs. So we're not asking everyone to be an expert on FAME's program. So if you have an idea or a business question, we would love to be a resource and we can point you in the direction. And we also, so in the past, it might be more than a year now, but we have launched the Maine Funding Network. So this is a kind of a silo of a place that you can go online and provide in a portal your business's information. And after that is compiled, it will spit out some matches. And that could be for lenders, it could be for debt, I mean, as well, debt is lending, but it could be for equity, it could be for business planning. So it will give you a couple different options of where you can go to find resources for your appropriate needs. So that is a big piece that's, it's seen a lot of traction on it, and we found it very helpful. So the question that we've all heard, is there kind of a one place that you can find out what everyone offers? And that's in itself does not exist that we're aware of. The Maine Funding Network is trying to silo people into places there where they can find their information that they're looking for.
I love it. Now, yeah, one more question. Again, in my Christina voice. If your interest rate typically higher than alternative lenders like the Cogs?
So that's an interesting question, and I don't have a perfect answer for that, because I have noticed interest rates vary quite a bit amongst community lenders. Ultimately, I would say if you're shopping for an interest rate, Fame's not gonna be your answer.
Yeah.
But that's not always the case. So, unfortunately, I don't have a good answer as far as where you can find your best rate. I think always look at your community lenders as well. There's the COGS, there's City of Portland, there's all kinds of resources out there that will also provide loans. And you may be able to find a better interest rate. But really, I know interest rates are always going to be important, but finding a partner or finding an entity that will work with you is just as important. So
Awesome. Well, thank you, Matt. Christina Online, thank you for your good humor and allowing me to obviously not do a good impression of you. We have two speakers left, both from MCOG, and so representing Age Before Beauty, ladies and gentlemen, Matt Eddy.
Thank you. I'm Matthew Eddy. I'm Executive Director for Midcoast Council of Governments. Midcoast Council of Governments is a municipally driven organization. The municipalities from Brunswick to Waldo County are members, except for Lincoln County, which has its own organization. But we have a business development side that we developed to support businesses in our member communities and provide that service. We focus on gap financing. We're usually teaming with Fame or our bank or CEI. We're not generally, except for some circumstances, providing independent loans. Our loans range from $50,000 to $200,000. We usually look for 5 to 7 year payment reschedule. We will forgive interest in the early periods or principal in the early periods in exchange for a balloon at the end, because we're here to help with gap financing in the most difficult projects. The assumption again is that there's a stack in front of us and we're just playing a small role. We're generally 2% below prime, which is probably why we don't have very much money. Our sources are both our own loan funds at MCOG, Fame, USDA, and Northern Borders, and we're hoping to expand upon that in short term. To obtain an application with us, you do apply through Fame's Maine Lending Funding Network, and that's mainefundingnetwork.com. And I think it has become for us a very useful tool because it's a great way for you as a business to organize your application because it's really well done. And then it also allows you to look for a match, and you'll find a whole host of folks that will respond to that match if they think that it's a good play. We think of lending as something we're trying to do to support our municipalities. We get a lot of our referrals from our own towns, but we also get referrals from everybody in the office, and we've all, in this audience, we've all gone back and forth. And I think that would be it.
I'm gonna not ask you questions right now, so we can save some time. Our final presenter before we get into the Q&A section is the beauty of the Age Before Beauty, Matt Johnstone at MCOG Brownfield Loan Program. Come on.
Hi, everyone. I'm Max Johnstone. I'm the Deputy Director with the Midcoast Council of Governments. I also am the coordinator for the Brownfield Program, or Brownfield Program, as the agenda says. And I'm not making that up. Anyways. So for those of you who do not know what the brownfield program is, it's not really a business focus, it is more site focused. So the way it works, for those who don't know what a brownfield is, it is site that has potential or has been tested to have a hazardous material as identified by the Environmental Protection Agency. The most common ones we'll find on these sites include lead and asbestos. And our brownfield program is about remediating and cleaning those materials up. Really, it could be any other materials, you know, things you do not want in your body. I mean, I certainly love a nice lead-based paint every now and then, but I don't like it when it's peeling and falling into my breakfast cereal every morning. But that's beside the point. The way our program is actually broken into two parts, both of which are funded through the US EPA as well. There's the assessment program, and then there's the loan program. You get to the loan program and the cleanup funding, we do have to have someone go through the assessment. It doesn't have to be ours necessarily, but for something that does typically cost a business or municipality thousands of dollars, possibly tens of thousands of dollars, the idea of getting a free assessment for your property sounds a bit more enticing now that I'm saying it out loud. The assessment involves a phase 1 and a phase 2 and an inventory of that hazardous materials. That just involves us going to the site with our environmental consultants, who we've selected CV Mahar and Prettier Associates, and a representative from the Maine Department of Environmental Protection as well, and have a nice centralized document of all the potential materials that are there and a record of what has been cleaned up, as shown from the fact finding. And after all that's done, you now have a comprehensive report detailing what needs to be addressed or what hazardous materials are on that site that you can then use. And again, it was a free assessment we just had done that was provided through our program. Once that assessment is done, we can go through the loan program, where we do offer a mixture of sub-grants and low interest loans. Matt was saying below 2% market rate for his program. So now I don't know if it's better or worse that I'm saying 3% for my program. And what our program, what's very unique is that we are open to really anyone. So this is not just a publicly owned or private or sub or non-profitly owned site. We also work with private individuals as well. And one of the biggest misconceptions you probably think of with a brownfield is, oh, well, contaminated hazardous material sites. You know, that's got to be a big commercial area. That's got to be these old mills. That's got to be the gas station. No, some of those common ones we've actually seen this year. Half of them have been schools because they were built back in the 1930s, redeveloped in the 60s. And does anyone want to take a guess of what was the hot trend before the EPA was existing? Lead and asbestos, and it's all over the place. And the other misconception is, oh, well, brownfield site, we got to seal it off, got to make sure no one goes into it. No, there's a lot of redeveloped brownfield sites, even in Brunswick alone, that you will see range from new offices, new restaurants, even housing units. I say Brunswick, but one of the examples that I have out in the back is the old YMCA building that's in Bath, that's near the downtown. That was turned into 60 apartment units when it was all said and done. So brownfields have a lot of flexibility and reuse potential, and that's why it's great to bring this program back. I say 3% in a 3-year term, but we are very flexible and we can work with any developer. That can be the interest rates, that can be the terms, that can even be the monthly payments. If you don't think you're able to pay up front for the first few months, we can try and work with you to have it more heavy on the end of the loan program. And if you want to pay it all up front early, I'm good with that too. So that's all of the quick spiel. I had like a whole 10-minute presentation and some fireworks, but I then realized we might be short on time. Held off on that.
Bring Max, applause for Max, everybody. All right, Max, don't go anywhere. I'm actually gonna have all the speakers come up front. So I think one of the great things about this presentation is that it is being filmed and that we have an opportunity to answer questions that come through the chat. But we also have questions, an opportunity to answer questions in the room. And so I often know when I do presentations that I'm like, oh, I forgot to tell them about that. So I will first offer to any of the speakers, is there anything, and I will just ask you to speak from here just so we can pick it up on the recording device. Oh, let's see what here. No, can you get anything aside of it? No,
I got one. I bet mine.
Yeah.
I bet mine are better.
Both polls are gonna be great.
Thank you.
There we go. All right, Joe, you have something that you wanna, just come this way, just to make sure we get it all.
Yeah. So I was gonna make a quick plug. We have a business plan competition that has cash prizes that closes on Friday of this week. And we do it once a year, so it's a fun event. It's called the Maine Startup Challenge, but if you Google that, you can get to the application. All you have to do is apply with a business plan. Hopefully you already have one. And if you already have one, you could just take it off the shelf and apply, so.
That's fantastic.
It's an $8,000 prize for the winner from the open tier, and then we have tiers for kids too. So if you have kids in your life that are entrepreneurs, they can apply.
Phenomenal. I'm just watching the Zoom chat to see if there's any questions there, or if anybody wants to raise their hand and unmute and dare say it, say their question and speak it into existence. Questions in the room?
Not at the moment for this, I think that it's wonderful that you guys are here. And I think that what I found as far as challenges in trying to get funding is, and I think that it is helped by your kind of network where you put in and you get connected with the different folks. Maine's a hard place to build, especially technology. At least that's what I've found. Especially if it's groundbreaking or something that doesn't exist. So one thing that I would just say is, I think that you're gonna find people at different spots. And you're also gonna see, I think in the next 5 years or so, a lot of subject matter experts who are going to be moving into technology and coding, because of the basically because Cloud Code and everything that exists allows people to work a lot faster. So the only thing I'd say is just keep an eye out for those types of people, because the people that bring, 10, 15 years of attorney experience or hospital experience and all of that type of stuff is really going to help for the next stages.
David, I was in and out, so David asked the answer, but, how do you guys integrate with like SBA loans and things like that?
It's interesting, we just did an SBA loan for, we're in the process of working through it, in which it came by way of the bank through a reference because we needed to fill a gap.
Yeah.
And we had started with this gap that needed to be shrunk, and we used Granite State Development as our source for the SBA. I don't know of others and what
I
direction.
mean, are they considered a partner with the network, the funding network, or is that really more the state local stuff?
Yeah, I don't think they're part of the main funding network,
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't believe they were on the website.
but as far as Fame side, banks will typically use Fame or the SBA.
Mhm.
On a capital, like if we're doing sub debt on a capital stack, you'll work with deals there are some instances that get a little wonky, but, we will work with the SBA if we need to.
Who are the worst banks to work with? I'm joking. That's a joke. I can't remember that.
The ones with no branches and.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's the ones that aren't here.
Could you talk a little bit about a new market? Does it have the same name as the federal program, but seems very, very different?
Yeah, it's not that different, but it's a very complex web, right? Like of how it works, but they will work together in instances where you can use federal and national markets tax credits with state markets. Without getting into the details of like how the money flows, but they're able to work in conjunction with each other.
For people that don't know exactly what that is, can you give a 30-second?
Yeah, it's a way for, yes, I don't know if I can. to be honest. Yeah, right, so it's a way for, to bring capital to projects that are eligible, that are deemed eligible. It would be part of a larger capital stack that can come into a deal. But there's so many details to it that I don't know if I can even this is.
See in a general way about
Right,
it.
'cause every deal is gonna be different but if it's gonna be, likely gonna need to be at least a $10 million deal for a new market tax credit to even make sense.
Yeah, well, that's, I mean, even that helps people with an understanding of where it fits into their options.
The other thing that, sorry,
No,
the
you go
other thing that we're kind of watching, is the whole reemergence of the Opportunity Zone program, which didn't really fare all that well in Maine in the last run. And, you know, they're in the process of designating areas that would be receiving, the benefits of that Opportunity Zone now. And I haven't spent a lot of time, I don't know if anybody else here is looking hard at the program. But, you know, we're still learning, but it's something for everybody out there to keep an eye on. Because it's also theoretically a way to raise equity for a project.
Yeah, you mentioned the northern border, the northern borders, that was expanded, but in the last year to some additional communities that maybe thought that they.
Just for our region, it still excludes Saginaw County and Cumberland County and York. But it does include Lincoln County now, as well as Waldo and Knox.
So for those in Lincoln County, Waldo and Knox, can you give 30 seconds on that, on Northern Borders?
Northern Borders is a really good source of funding. I liken it to the Community Development Block Grant Program that municipalities apply for. The resources are greater and they work in technology areas, in particular timber, and they're now working into the blue economy area. They're generally grant oriented with applications through a nonprofit generally, but that is something that we can utilize. For example, if you need infrastructure improvements to make a building work for you, the community can go after that grant with Northern Border to help that project. And so it takes coordination with your municipality to obtain that funding, but it is a really good funding source for those counties.
Did you have another question?
Not applicable to you, but since this is a webinar, I'll get it recorded. One of you guys should probably talk about the Main Seed Capital Tax Credits.
Sure. That falls under fame, right? So you're obviously aware of it. It's a great program for any investor or for a Maine business. So if an investor.
Matt, can you say the name of it again in case it didn't get caught?
Yeah, Main Seed Capital Tax Credit.
Main Seed Capital Tax.
Yep, so if a investor is going to invest in a Maine company that is registered within the program, the investor can receive up to 40% tax credit on their Maine taxes. For their investment in these companies. Yeah, and in some cases can be with a fund as well. So a fund could put their money into Maine companies, but if someone is looking to invest in it, or if a company is looking to have investors come into their company, it's important that they register their company for the program, and then any investment that can come in would be eligible, depending on if they meet the criteria.
Great. Looking at Zoom to see if any other questions are coming through or any hands being raised. Seeing none, I'm gonna ask the presenters if you have any questions for one another, anything that you want to clarify with each other? Or is there anything else that you forgot to say that you're like, I really should have said that thing?
Well, the only thing I'd send, I've had the opportunity recently to work with Emma, to work with Jen, and to work with Matt. In every case, that collaboration is really helpful, and we do communicate, and it's necessary sometimes for us to put together difficult deals.
Yeah, that's actually what I wanted to ask about. From a collaboration perspective, do you often sit down with the company and kind of talk about what opportunities might be? From the sense of, because each of you offers different types of opportunities to a company. And sometimes, at least for me, venture capital is great, but I also want to be careful about control and stuff like that. So it's like, how do you manage, especially with an early company pre-revenue, where there is a product, how do you work together? Like, what does that look like? Is it, because I think that one of the struggles is you do have one entry point into multiple different funding streams, but then you are on separate paths with each of those, and they don't always directly connect. And so that was what I was kind of curious about, because I went through that process and we actually got a chance to meet, which was wonderful. But it was kind of like, all right, there are other opportunities that might be available. How do we get collaboration to occur more often? And that, for me, in my past, as in my work, I find that collaboration is the best way to get to a positive result, because each element provides different aspects of what is necessary. And I think that, especially after your guys' presentation, you know, you each are serving very significant purposes, but they're not necessarily completely aligned. So how do you do that? How do you have those conversations? Are there times where you do have like a standing meeting, or is it just like deal based?
Jen, do you want to start? Or do you not want to start? I couldn't tell by your mannerisms if you wanted to.
I don't have to start now.
All right, okay. Now I'll let you start.
Well, you know, I think it's really, actually, you would have been the right person to start. It's really driven by the individual business and the connection we have. You know, my walking into your office and having a conversation,
Right.
going, well, you don't really fit for us, but
Right.
there's this program at MTI that makes an awful lot of sense for you
Right.
to take to the next step. I think what we discover is that people come into our office, we triage what they need, and then we think through the different partners that are over here and figure out who they need to talk to.
Awesome.
You know, is there collaboration? I don't know. I mean, I think there is, because, you know, we work with FAME all the time, and we work with CEI all the time. We work with Jen all the time. Joe, not as much, but that's because you're more of a mature company.
Right.
I think a lot of us are also looking at working with fairly young, emerging entrepreneurs.
Awesome. Thank you
And
so much.
I just add to that, I think, from the entrepreneur's perspective, you should always be thinking, keeping your head on a swivel. There is no one type of capital that's gonna carry you the distance, right? But it's always like, you know, obviously we do our best to make introductions, but always assume that, you know, there's, depending on what's changing in the company, there's different sources out there. And obviously, there's a big world beyond Maine too. So I think to the earlier question about, you know, why isn't there a list of just, you know, who the lenders are? I think it's a good question, and there have been many iterations of lists over the course of time, but you have to, you know, the question that always comes back is, well, what's your filter, right? Is it Maine? And then within that, is it women-owned businesses? Is it, you know, what stage of company? You know, what type of lender? And there's so many ways you can slice and dice it, that at least that's my excuse for not having the comprehensive list. Is like, it's just hard to, it tends to be, you know, as you've heard many times, it tends to be a case by case, you know, come in, figure out where you're at, and then where can we collectively, you know, meet you.
Awesome.
I'll just point out that as my prior role before being here at Chuck Place, I worked for Maine DCD, and that was our job, was to convene, find out what businesses' needs were, and then connect them to the resources that could help them. And that often was having getting people in a conference room together, you know, the players were all there. Now with, you know, post-COVID and with all more access to technology, the in-person stuff isn't happening as much, so that it allows people, all the resource folks, to actually convene more easily in their groups, you know,
Right.
with Zoom and chat, things like that. So I mean, I work with just about all of you guys at some point. And that's the benefit of Maine, it's that we're a huge state, but small state with a number of people.
Yeah.
So that connectivity is there. You can have a list, and then somebody may join a different organization and move around, so it's really knowing the organizations and that connectivity that I think is what helps our folks.
Did anyone else want to comment on the collaborative part?
Yeah, I mean, I think, as an advisor, it's my job to know what the resources are, so, and it's very specific to whoever's coming through the door, so.
Gotcha.
Oftentimes, you know, what will work for one business won't work for another business, and that's, we try to work with people to give them the information, meet them where they're at, and, move their project forward, so. I think we do collaborate often, you know, sometimes people need an MCOG loan, they need a CEI wicked fast, you know, there's, you know, I think we're all kind of working together. Yeah.
And I think that's kind of where the chamber's role is too, where no matter where your community, no matter where your business is, you can talk to your local chamber of commerce and they can direct you to the people that they know in the area. I am by no means an expert, but I am a convener and, you know, I know more of these people now than I did before I walked in. But also I could have directed anyone to Matt or Jen and said, hey, you know, who would you recommend these people go to? But that's also the need for events like this. It's nice for us to get together every 3 to 6 months and kind of just remind everybody, here's what we do, here's what we're here for. Because although this is gonna be video, there's nothing worse than like, oh, that's a video from 6 months ago. That's not relevant. Now, we can have the exact same presentation in 6 months and you know, it's good to remind people what we do for it. Do you have one last question?
Did the state replace the old account executive program, or is that just gone on?
No, they just reorganized how they're delivering business assistance. So they have, large business, coordinator, and they have a small meeting.
Oh, it's better.
Instead of geographic.
So it doesn't have as many people in it as it once.
No, it didn't. And the governor account execs were so good at getting out into the field,
Yeah.
meeting with the chambers and
Yeah.
and other groups and saying, hey, I'm here to help, I'm here to help. Because again, we all need that reminder of what's here. So, anyone have anything else that they want to say? Seeing nothing online, I want to thank our online folks for joining us. Thank MCOG for going together, Tech Place for hosting us, and everybody for showing up, sharing your stories. Everyone in the room is gonna eat lunch. I hope you're eating lunch wherever you are. That's it.
Thank you.
Yeah. You know, but figures of the steel, please.